Stop and listen to this. This is powerful information that everyone in the world, worldwide, really needs to know. No matter who you are, where you come from, no matter what you believe in. This can help you so much you've got no idea. This is the #1 solution in the world to every problem we are having right now worldwide. One solution to every single thing. Can you imagine that? Wouldn't that be a blessing? Wouldn't that just be an unbelievable blessing to know that one thing can resolve everything? Everything you're going through right now. Confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia, falling into rabbit holes, misinformation, conquer, debate and divide. Right? Argue, debate, discredit. It's happening in your own family, in your own backyard, right? Okay, isn't it? Aren't you conquering, dividing with your own family, loved ones and friends? Something's going on in the world, right? Something's not right. You know that, right? What if there's one solution and there's one answer to everything? What if there really is just one solution? Because there is. There literally is, right? Okay, I need you to use your wild imagination for a moment and focus on what's happening to yourself in real life around you, with people around you in real life. Okay, there's a total communication breakdown. There's so many different opinions, and people controlled by stress, fear, and anxiety. Okay, it's happening all over the world on a global scale. It's being identified in many different ways. Have you heard of the Havana syndrome? It's reported in 96 countries in the world. Every study from the top professionals all over the world in 3.5 years is saying they don't know what it is. Trust me, I know what it is. I'm going to prove it to you. I just received a message from a friend of ours, a follower, right? And I'd like you to listen to this carefully. There's a reason why I want to tell you this. So a friend of his went through something 2 weeks ago. I've told you, I've got thousands and thousands of people reporting this particular syndrome. People getting dizzy spells, right? People getting vertigo, getting confused, people going walkabout, getting insomnia and amnesia. Just think about this for a moment. People even getting concussions. Don't know where they are, don't know what's going on. Now they can't explain this all over the world. They say it's something to do with frequencies, EMP, a pulse, and something in the mind, something stress-related. Something stressed in the mindset that's stress-related. This is on every document with zombie viruses and the peer reports, body snatchers, people getting vaccinated and all of a sudden go like this and drop, right? Half of them in a hospital. Half of them are not vaccinated. They come from vaccinated or not. You don't even know that. And they're not all dying either. They end up in hospital and they lost their natural organic motor skills. Like they're in a state of mind where they can't function. So they come up with all these different reports, okay? But I want to tell you something, okay? A guy went through this 2 weeks ago, okay? He went walkabout and got some sort of concussion and amnesia, didn't know where he was, didn't know what was going on whatsoever, right? Like thousands and millions of people reporting over the world, that's unreported. 15,000 people come here like this to me on this platform, going through the same things, unreported. And it's happening on mainstream media in 96 countries, right? And it's all the same adverse effect. Every single thing is the human conditioning. It's the human conditioning. The biggest biologist is Jeremy Griffiths, who wrote the book Freedom. You find in the World Transformation Movement. He's from Australia. They discovered this. They discovered the cure for this. In Australia, I'm unlawfully deported from Australia, right, in 2016. I went back and deported again in 2017. I want you to listen to this part, okay? I've gone through a lot of information about this, okay? The doctors in Australia, okay, opiates is the biggest killer in the world today. It kills 2/3 of all illicit drugs around the world, which means it kills more than every other drug in the world put together by over double. In Denmark, I was on tramadol when I got deported to Denmark, which is a lesser drug, not an opiate, right? I went to the doctor one day to get it. They wouldn't give it to me. They wanted to give me opiates. I said, what are you talking about? It's the deadliest drug in the world. That's malpractice. I'm on a lesser drug. I don't want opiates that causes the damage. I know that from Australia, from the reports coming out. So they got scared because it's malpractice, right? And he showed me the memo on the computer. The government ordered all the doctors to give them opiates. The government ordered all the doctors to stop giving me tramadol and give us opiates. In Australia, they're stopping opiates and call it the deadliest drug in the world. In Australia, they're managing pain completely differently. The World Transformation Movement began in Australia with the top rollers in the whole world, and they're teaching the medical system how to deal with things differently. And here's where I want your undivided attention. A person who has the Havana syndrome that 96 countries in the world can't work out. 96 in the countries in the world and studies done in the world cannot work out. Here's a guy who had the Havana syndrome. Here's a guy who has the Havana syndrome, right? And losing his vertigo and losing his natural organic medicines. He goes to a psychiatrist in Australia. A psychiatrist who listened to the World Transformation Movement. I want to bring something to your attention very specifically. And it's important you listen to me. He goes to see a psychiatrist, and everyone in the whole world gets put on mental disorder tablets like this and ADHD medication and all sorts of mental disorder tablets for this by psychiatrists all over the world. Here's a psychiatrist, right, that goes through this with the genuine person who's had a genuine syndrome like this. And what does he medicate him with? The When I Breathing program. He said the When I Breathing program would fix everything in your mindset and get you out of this. The When I Breathing program that I educate here the most in the human condition that we all suffer from so much in every one of these adverse effects. The doctors in Australia is starting to recommend exactly what I'm teaching here. What I've been teaching here for 4 years, written in my book, is what they're starting to teach. Through doctors in Australia, through the World Transformation Movement, but the rest of the world keeps pushing opiates. Keeps pushing the marketing strategy in the biggest deception created by Prama and the elite that caused the biggest deceptions in the world on law and order documents that they put in by the Rockefellers and Bilderbergs 300 years ago with the chaos documents. The law and order documents is the most destructive thing in our civilization, the Western civilization. And I want to explain to you why, okay? Bill Gates was first done for capitalism and globalization. They couldn't charge him for this. They have offshore accounts. Okay, all the elite people in the world like Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, right, Trump, the whole lot of them's got offshore accounts and don't pay tax. Right, the government system set up a system so they don't have to pay tax because the government implement these laws and looks after these people so they take trillions of dollars without paying tax. They all pay $750 tax in each country. Like Trump on mainstream media pays $750 tax a year and that's all he pays. So does Jeff Bezos. You've heard he never pays tax. Same with Bill Gates, same with all of them. They've got offshore accounts. That's why Bill Gates sits at the UN like the most powerful man, like he owns his own country. He has an offshore account that's registered in such a way it entitles him to go into the UN to sit by himself. So the government set up a structure through law and order documents written by the Bilderbergs and the Rockefellers to tax you in such a way that the marketing strategies cause chaos, and they designed the law and order documents, the elite did. They designed the whole banking system, right, and the corporation privately owned. And every system in the whole Western civilization under the UN is under the same structure by the governments and law and order documents, implemented by Rockefellers and atheists that are egotistical creatures to fill their fat pockets up. And every country in the world, America the most, they set up a design so that these people own 97% of all the money in the whole world, right? 1% of people owns 97% of all the money in the world and every single thing you consume and buy through Prama and every system in the world. The law and order documents by the governments are implemented in such a way that they don't pay tax, but they tax you so much and it goes up every day as they create monopolization and offshore accounts and take billions and billions of dollars and trillions of dollars. We had a document in 1980 that said we would all be flourishing with money so much we'd all be rich by the time in 2020. Well, in fact, we would not be suffering and no one would be suffering ever again. We were flourishing. They set up a structure and took all our surplus money from 160 countries to build a service machine that cost $37 trillion. They broke the banks in 2008. You can go and follow the money trail. They lied to you in every country in the world and took your tax money to build a service machine with $37 trillion. They lied to you that much through every single government with your taxpayers' money that goes to projects like this and gain-of-function research and projects that cost trillions of dollars for their militaries and their navies. But let me tell you something. The people you idolize the most in this world, right, are these monsters, right? Okay, Trump ripped off $980 million in the early 80s. And, everyone thought he was an evil scumbag with what he did. Everybody hated his guts, right? But somehow people turned into loving this guy, right? Okay, but he never paid tax his whole life. Okay, 4 years later, he's worth $5 billion. Now, under any tax collapse, right, under any tax or bankruptcy act, you must pay the money back if you get the money back. Trump was worth $5 billion 3.5 to 4 years later, $5 billion, and could pay that money back 5 times over. But the government protected him. The government protected him, right, all the way through. They always have, right? And people don't understand that, right? But these people get millions and billions of dollars, right? Rip off people, right? And never pay a cent tax money. And when Bill Gates donates 1 million or 5 million, right? He pays $750 tax like they all do. Do you know why he pays $750 tax? Because every single thing they donate. You can go to Google and you can see that Bill Gates donated $100 billion over his years. George Soros, he donated so much. And everybody donated so much, donate. You can read on Google everywhere. But you know what they don't tell you? That it's 100% tax deductible and you pay for all of it. Why don't they tell you the truth? Right? Why don't they tell you the truth that, in fact, the taxpayers pays for every single thing they donate because it's 100% tax deductible, and the governmental system sets it up to be that way. So they get all their money back and they make sure they put up the tax every single day so you pay for every single thing that they go into and donate. They all have offshore accounts, have trillions of dollars, and took 97% of your money since 1980 with capitalism and mobilization. And who do you think done that? The law and order documents. The most dangerous and greatest deception ever created in human history is law and order documents and a police force, right, that manage the system, right, on a marketing strategy to create revenue, right? So in Australia, in 1996, we had the highest death toll from heroin, cocaine, highest gang killing, murder rates, highest domestic violence where kids getting taken off their parents, goes into homes, get raped and bashed and ends up in jail. The Royal Commission in Australia proves over 80% were paid out in jail for being put through homes with rapes and bashed children that ends up in jail. 2/3 was paid from outside the prison system, and they were mostly prostitutes that had gone through exactly the same environments, taken off their parents, gone through homes, raped and bashed with their families, and God knows what else. Also ending up as prostitutes. They were paid out as well. So that's an act of guilt. Did one person get charged for over 88,000 victims? Not one person, because they protect every single one of these empires. It's a marketing strategy where every person that ends up in the street or unemployment or on sickness benefits or in jail, they collect 4 times the taxpayers' money. So you pay for all of it, right? It's a marketing strategy, right? And when the cops had me on investigation and the top federal bureau and the top think tank was watching me work with the top 7 networks and brought all those statistics down to the lowest it was in 30 years. It took all the work up the boards, right? It stopped the marketing strategy all the way to the streets. Now, my arresting officer commended me for this, and it's written on his affidavit, subject to perjury. He said he envied me. He said, I'm quitting the police force because I saw what you've done. And he quit the police force. He stands in my favor in my case. Many judges and politicians stood in my favor, but the people running the show, right, they didn't like me taking the highest death tolls down, gang killing and violence and domestic violence, putting people into homes and stop them from going to jails and taking off children, off their parents. They didn't like that. And they saw that with their own 2 eyes. They saw that with their own 2 eyes, that their bosses and their marketing strategy wanted to make me target number 1 that also reverses the whole system, right? So I reversed everything in the whole continent to the lowest it was in 30 years, and they watched their authorities wanting to spend double the money to take me out of the way to keep the marketing strategy going, right? So you can see how evil your governments really genuinely are in every system in the world. You really can see how evil they are. It's so easy to see. And what they really do support with the elect and the law and order documents, the Parliamentary Carter's law, which was imposed into our society 300 years ago by the Rockefellers and the oil giants and the people that control this world. Now, these people set up the whole system up like this, right? But I'll tell you what the worst part is. I'll tell you what the most dramatic part in the world is, right? They control every single thing, right? They control your governments and authorities with these kind of regulations. But you know something? Go and look at the House of Lords. In Australia, when we deny parole and we can't appeal for it because the laws are stitched up that much we cannot appeal the parole decisions, we go under the House of Lords for being denied our natural justice. And we go to court and win every single case, right? Because we don't file in the Parliamentary Crime and Misconduct Law Committees. We don't file under parliamentary law. The Human Rights Commission was designed by the Rockefellers, right? Okay, by people such as Bill Gates' forefathers, right? You know, they set up the parent planning, right, with the Human Commission. And the Human Rights Commission is not the right Human Commission. They control the whole 9 yards to bleed you and suck you in so bad you got no idea. The House of Lords regulation, go and Google this and go and look at Wikipedia, right? Open it up and take a look. It's a spiritual law. We always had our own sovereignty under the Universal Act. That's the genuine Human Rights Commission, the genuine laws that are imposed here for 1,000 years that are biblical, right? And those are the real laws in the world. And when you apply here for being denied natural justice, that's the law you go under. You go right outside their law systems and the Human Rights Commission because you go right into the genuine law, right? And that's a genuine law that was been here for thousands of years that they hijacked. These monsters and atheists that design your reverse psychology with engineering into a slavery system where you become your own prison, your own warden at the same time, into that system where you're trapped inside your mind. They designed you with all these tools to suffer the human condition to begin with an adverse effect through Parliament that control everything in the system with. And you know, they put people on ADHD and pensions all over the world to create that marketing strategy. And I cure people from ADHD every day. They, on their reports, they've got 20,000 different types of ADHD. There's only one type. They got 60,000 types of bipolar. There's only one type. Their documents through Parliament and all their education system, the biggest deception in the world is mental disorder tablets. There are thousands of them, right? And everyone's on mental disorder tablets. Everyone can't cope in life, right? It's all by confusion, frustration, delusion, and paranoia through the chaos plan, through your education, right? On psychological warfare, and everything's designed on psychological warfare through the whole education system, through every single platform and social media platform, radio stations and televisions. It's all for psychological warfare, to think too much in reverse psychology, to think with high IQ. That only makes you good at what you do, but in fact not intelligent. So they deceived you into that, so you take graphene oxide in a drug delivery system in all mental disorder tablets, all ADHD medication, which has gone up 36 times since 1994. And methamphetamine in the underground world, the same products, right, with the same drug delivery system of graphene oxide inside iodine crystal, is used and gone up 5,000 times in production rate and use. Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister of Australia, did a mandatory urine test in 2016, the government's authorities and Defence Force, and it's 78% positive. And he reported it's the same all over all in DNA evidence done. And that's what Jeremy Griffiths reported all over all. They're all on happy pills and beyond the point of return. They're all stressed and in anxiety and can't cope in life. So when you're designed into so much bullshit and there's so much lies by these people, and you can't wake up to that and you want to live in your own narrative, you've got to understand something. You consume graphene oxide, which is an electronic magnetic device in vaccinations. It is mRNA technology, right? Go and look at the patent. Electronic magnetic device from graphene, that's a drug delivery system in nearly everything you produce and everything you eat. It's in vitamin C, B12, zinc, iron, magnesium. It's in all your preservatives and all your foods. It's a drug delivery system. You've been consuming it since 1895, sorry. You've been consuming it. That's the first time in vaccination. What is it? It's a conducting agency. Why do you use it? Because you can't cope in life. What does this mean? It means your accretion, you create graphene oxide serum from the back of your pineal gland from 0 to 7, then it dies between 7 and 15. So you go into marketing strain and reverse psychology, you can't create the accretion anymore, so you can't conduct. So they give you these products you can conduct to only 1.5% of your power, because they drain you from your power with your psychological mental behavior and 5 cents in negative fields. So you can only use your instincts 1 to 5% and use that material to conduct with. So when the vaccinations didn't work, it's not because the vaccinations didn't work, it's because your mindset didn't work. It's the mindset you live in. The human conditioning that's exploding out of control since 1999, and no one wakes up to this. It's a syndrome all over the world. And the only thing that cures it is what I teach here. To think outside the mind instinctively. What does Winov say, who's won a Nobel Prize with 27 Guinness Book of Records for human abilities? Have you studied what this does to your DNA? Have you studied the accretion it does to your adrenochrome? It reoxidizes your blood the same way 0 to 7 and recreates a region to conduct within your body cells. Your gut feeding survival mode, it reactivates it with a shiver in your spine, Jacob's ladder, and your body cells. Your aura starts to go on fire and restores your sixth sense in the most positive fields, and that's your power, right? So in research, this is why I won a Nobel Prize, right? Because this cures everything about the human condition. You know why? It resets your biological clock in your central nervous system. It resets your biological clock in your central nervous system to think outside the mind and not with the mind and be free from the voice in the mind. That's why it's hailed to be the most important subject in the world with the book Freedom, written by Jeremy Griffiths, right? Okay, this is why this is the cure of the human condition of every single thing that's happening in the world. I can guarantee you that. But you see 99% of people is going against this in the narrative they believe in, right? And a lot of people are having problems with this. But Australia is one of the fastest moving front lines in the world that's using the right organic motor skills and the right tools to manage pain and their mental disorders without any drugs, without any prana, without the system, without the reverse psychology, without the elect trying to push everything else, right, with their Amanar technology. You see, everything they're designing in the whole world is designed through prana and 10 kings, 10 officers in Geneva with Garvey at the top, right? These are the monsters that don't pay any tax and take all your money. These are the monsters that set up the structure through Carter's law. These are the monsters that's got to be removed now. This is their system that's going to come down, and Tony Abbott explains this, and so did Scott Morrison at UN in 2019. We're going back to our natural environment, and we're using the forefront line of the oldest civilization in the world and our biologists, and we're going to teach our people the truth here. And we're going to stop this whole system, right, with what they're trying to introduce. Yet we're having a battle within Australia itself where they're introducing a vaccination company as well, where that's not the right way of doing things. And people screaming about that all over. Well, on the front page of the Australian newspaper itself, the front page would expose us to COVID cover-up and why scientists have silence, right? And UN Parliament, there's 19 Prime Ministers and President of the UN Parliament going against this as well and saying we must stop this. And some people are trying to use their natural organic motor skills. That's why the World Transformation Movement in the worst country in the world, in Denmark, has had Jeremy Griffiths, right? Dr. Bruce Lipton and Jordan Peterson in Copenhagen and all over the Nordic and all over America because they're most screwed up in the mind. It's a known fact. That's why they're setting Unifed centers up all over America and starting to reduce them all over Europe. And there's Australia with people in the cities that are completely in the wrong mindset. Unifed's got a lot to do with this in the World Transformation Movement through NASA. With the World Transformation Movement with Jeremy Griffiths to try and fix people's DNA and the mindset they live in with most positive fields. To think outside the mind, not with the mind that causes every adverse effect. When you have the Havana syndrome going in 96 countries in the world, and you've got thousands of people on every platform with undiagnosed reports like this, then you must listen to what I'm saying from this report. From one simple little report from one little guy, somewhere in the corner of Australia, who sent to see a psychiatrist who tells him how to medicate the syndrome that he's into with the Win-Off Breathing program. Because this is a movement moved by Jeremy Griffiths, right, and the top bowlers and the scientists and psychologists, right, inside Australia. When I was in Australia before I left, all the doctors that I went to were starting to manage pain differently and take opiates and drugs away from them. So their pharmaceutical system was being closed down by doctors that were starting to impose managing pain without drugs. Right? And most of the system in the world, right, wants to continue the marketing strategy with the drugs and pushing every button 7 times faster on a marketing strategy by the Rockefellers, Bilderbergs, by the elite, by Klaus Schwab, by these monsters in this world that don't even pay tax and makes you pay every single thing that they donate and get 100% tax rebate on. 100% tax deductible. And these monsters that have these offshore accounts that's designed for a tax structure, they take more money off your bank every day and don't give any service, right? They take more interest rate every single day and they become more unkind. The cops become more tyrannical, and you've been watching that for 45 years. The cops are becoming very nasty all over the world, and they're all on meth, proven on documents and DNA evidence. That over 80% of cops in the world is in fact on meth. In fact on meth, right? In Denmark, a government vehicle got pulled over with 125 kilos of meth in 2017 and then covered up because the government uses it. I know that for a fact. You won't find it in the streets. And it's reported all over the world that America approved 7 international companies with ephedrine to sell to one cartel in Mexico where they take all the chemical waste in Mexico with one company, 3,300 tonne a year, and move a tonne of meth into America every day with fentanyl that kills so many people in the world. America's proved all this with their psych-up programs, right? They've approved all these systems. You know that? You know that? It's the military controlling all these things with the adverse effects for the governments, right? That's been pulled by the people that run this world, right? Bill Gates sits at the Pentagon and controls the whole military with these tools. DARPA and biotech, you don't even know it. He's the most powerful man in the world that controls the whole system and can't be convicted for anything. These are the monsters you're dealing with, right? Which most people favour. That sets up a marketing strategy to cause people to be on drugs that they create through NASA. All these synthetic drugs that create through NASA, all of them are, right? They set up the whole market strategy through NASA and also the NASA military, right? They go out and teach people the drugs. They set up the Hive on Google from 1980 to 2012. The Hive is a black web on 160 countries that put in the money for the serum machine that approved the Hive. And the Hive was teaching people how to cook meth all over with the top scientists from the IPC from NASA. The top scientist from NASA was on the Hive teaching people all over the world, right, from 1984 to 2012, how to cook meth on 160 countries they approved in the black web through Google. With mRNA technology, the same particle. And I find it astonishing that people are falling into these deceptions all over the world with these kind of monsters. They put in law and order documents that's unvalid. They hijacked our natural sovereignty under our universal act, under the House of Lords as a universal law. That's the law. And they hijacked that law and set up a marketing strategy through governments on reverse psychology with the chaos document this week. That's why Denmark got busted for 2 money laundering cases, right? The biggest money laundering cases. That was actually designing and creating all the terrorism for the last 25 years that funded everything to do with 9/11 and every terrorist, right? Through Danske Bank in Denmark, right? And there was 36 cops and politicians involved in this, right? Not one of them got convicted. No one in the bank ever did. They never get convicted, right? They also set up the oil giants, which is the cartel that owns Prama, right? They did social media platform that control the whole 9 yards. They were doing climate denial reports for 20 years and convicted in 2019 for Mobile Excel. They don't go to jail. They comes back on here and tell you graphene oxides daily and daily and the world's falling apart with weather machines and heart machines. They lie their fucking teeth out. And everyone falls into every psycho program that they fucking programmed into. And they believe in every deception that they create here. Graphene oxide deadly and dangerous you create from 0 to 7. With your natural organic matter skills. To think outside the mind with instinctive behaviour. Not mental behaviour. It's a known fact. Your adrenochrome is graphene oxide serum that makes you conduct your body cells in the most positive fields, where you have a natural high like a meth effect, organically. Same as 0 to 7. But it dies between 7 and 15. So you take products to conduct with and you can only use your instincts 1 to 5% because of that reason. Because you can't conduct with your natural organic matter skills to make that accretion. And Winov recreates that accretion in this kind of method and won a Nobel Prize for this. In the World Transformation Movement, how to get break people free from the human condition organically and naturally with the natural organic matter skills to think instinctively in their primal state. To go back in the image they created in, to use that ability with superhuman abilities that you can all do that because it's stripped from you. And that's why the whole world's in a massive syndrome and there's stress and anxiety all over the world, confused and frustrated, and everyone wants to better themselves. Everyone over-exaggerates the stories and causes more cognitive division with a total communication breakdown all over the world. They can't even communicate with their family, lovers and friends for God's sake. So the truth will set you free, but not if you're not living in it, right? And most people aren't living in it because they're trapped inside their mind in their own narrative, in their own stories, in their own dream times. And they manifest their own truth and live in some bubble and want to control the world with their truth. Yet it's all back to front. It's totally back to front. Everything's back to front. Everything's inverted. Totally inverted. And that's why we're using our natural organic massacres. That's why we're losing our natural organic massacres in our sixth sense all over the world. Reported in 1999. We're stripped from our sixth sense for God's sake. We're in post-human states, no longer human. We're not even human anymore. The human conditioning, the Western civilization, 93% say on point of return to creating documents because they're not human anymore. They only think they are with a personality. And they keep justifying what they believe in their personality and their programming and their mindset and their narratives and their manifestation of their own truth. And they come to their own conclusion with reasoning and their own truth. And they want to promote their own truth I'm getting people here now saying, why do you criticize people with their perception, right? When they manifest their own truth and they can manifest what they want. What kind of free will, delusional, psychological, mental behavior is this? It's mentally insane with a delusion and a massive syndrome for people to fall into this BS. On psycho programs through the social media platform, to believe in your manifestation, your own truth, and create your own truth in some sort of narrative that causes everyone to conquer and divide with. That's not being a loving, compassionate creature. That's not being righteous. That's not wearing your heart on your sleeve. And it's not being down to earth neither, is it? It's being mentally. And you want to promote that mental behavior with a high IQ that causes you to do that, to live in your own truth and cause a conquer division with manifesting your own truth and believing your own truth in some kind of bubble, some sort of comfort zone? That's the human condition. That's the syndrome. People talk about, fear-mongering and narcissists. You're controlled by fear and reflect your own personality. You're controlled by that much stress, fear, and anxiety in the whole world. You're controlling the whole situation with what you live in. And you live in a comfort zone that doesn't fit into anything in your real narrative and doesn't fit into real life because you can't divide with your family, lovers, and friends in real life. And then you sit on social media platform in some kind of bubble and pretend you're human and going to save the fucking world. You can't even save your own backyard. You're all in a massive syndrome out there and lie all the time. You can't compare yourself to a genuine, humble, spiritual human being like the outback of Australia, a Shilla mastermind, a monk and Buddha. You can't even focus on any genuine, humble people that uses the right tools because you live in your narrative. You live in your mental scone. You're trapped in your mind that much and you're that confused with a total communication breakdown worldwide. And what, you can't see that? You got no basic common sense to feel that? 99% of you don't. Well, it's no wonder. It's no wonder that I'm telling you this. This is your only solution in the whole world. And there's one solution for everything. But you know what? People are trapped so much in their fucking mind today that 99% of people is going to fail this. Because they choose to. They give consent to the voice of the mind and that controls them. Trapped inside their mind. Yet we're teaching the very basic common sense, the real tools, right? And most people don't pay attention. Do you know these people have been studying this for 45 years and been teaching this for years? So when you come into a great awakening in 2020, you see how people behave, you can see how much people avoid this. That's been avoiding this for 20 years. Only 45 million people across the planet is starting to move this, and now it's being implemented into the doctors and scientists. It's being implemented into the pharmaceutical system in Australia. It's being implemented into psychiatrists and being taught correctly with one tool. The We're Not Breathing program and understanding yourself biologically is to read the book Freedom, the cure of the human condition that's going to save humanity. And 99% of people don't want to be saved. They'd rather be in stress, fear, anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia, sit in a bubble in front of the screen and keep on suffering. Isn't that amazing that people give consent to the devil in their mind that controls them that much, and they would rather suffer the consequences, and they don't want to be free from this. They don't want the truth to set them free. They can't even handle the truth. They can't even live in the truth. I find that so astonishing that people can't see that everyone in the world around them, including themselves, is in a massive syndrome and a massive delusion that they are so afraid and controlled by so much fear, stress, and anxiety today, they can't even free themselves from this when we have a very simple solution, and it's calling have faith in your own biological genes to use your natural organic molecules to think outside the mind, not with the mind. This is the only platform in the world that's moving and having a massive success rate to go back to a primal state, to think instinctively in the very image we're creating with superhuman abilities, where we can do things that's beyond the mindset we were ever living in. The placebo effect's 10 times more powerful than your reality, as Dr. Bruce Lipton says. And your reality is what suppresses you in the mindset you live in and limits you so much when you have 10 times more ability. Stop and think about this. If you want to learn, listen to the 2 videos I made this morning and last night. If you really want to learn something and get out of the mindset and the trapped mind that you live in, then listen and learn for God's sake and practice what I preach and dedicate yourself, because freedom is a liberation you're not understanding. You're trapped with chains wrapped around you in a dark tunnel and it's sticking your head through the light of the inner tunnel. And believe me, when you get to that point, you look back and realize, my God, I didn't even know. There's no other way to explain this. You don't know. You don't know any better. Trust me, you do not know. And until this moment that you experience this, you will not know. There's no possible way you can educate yourself with more information and more critical thinking and continue to be a robot to fact check yourself in your own truth. There's nothing in this world that works. You have to get off your ass and be dedicated and learn how to love yourself correctly, instinctively. Instinctively, not mentally. Mentally. 8 tools of righteousness. It's about believing. It's about love. Everything else in the world is BS. And if you can't face that, you're screwed. End of story. It's over. Most people possessed by the devil, right, and it's declared the voice of the mind's ultimately designed for extinction and trapped inside their mindset. And you know what? You can either ascend from here. You can either be part of the cure or part of the problem. It's up to you, man. But don't sit there in a pedestal and think you know better with your educated knowledge in front of a screen all day. When you can't dedicate yourself to know how to manage your system correctly and how to be free from every single thing you suffer. All the voices in your mind, being free from stress, fear, anxiety, confusion, frustration, illusion, and paranoia. In a time where time stands still and life is served and enemy is perfect. No more pain, stress, and fear. You going to tell me you don't want some of that? You're going to tell me you don't want some of that? You're going to keep on using the same tools in your narrative? You're going to keep living in your bubble, in your own comfort zone? Or you're going to learn what the truth is and let yourself be freed? It's about truth and living in the truth. And when you're living in all the bugs that are put inside your mind, you're living in your mind. You're not living in the truth. It's about believing. It's about love. Everything else is BS. End of story. It's that simple. Is it too difficult for you? Is it too difficult for you to work that out? It's about love. It's about believing. Everything else is BS. Is it too difficult for you to work that out, to think outside the mind? Or do you have to keep justifying what you believe in inside your mind? Because then you're part of the problem, not part of the cure. And I just want you to know that, right? I just want you to know what the truth is. Because otherwise it'll never set you free when you keep thinking the way you do. So I urge you to do the When I Breathe In program and get your mind snap out of the way. Cold showers, ice baths, snap out of your fucking mind, man. Snap out of this mindset you live in. Dedicate yourself to learn this. Stop living in your narrative in front of a screen. Like a robot to fact check, Google yourself, and then think you're some kind of human that's going to save the world when you can't even save yourself. You're in a massive syndrome worldwide, the human conditioning. And this is the freedom. This is the real cure for everything. The world's inverted, and you can see that. It's not hard to see.